Welcome to a new edition of Resonate with Irwin Edgehill. I'm Irwin Edgehill. Today's topic is going to focus on asking for it. And to discuss this topic is my friend, Rio. Good afternoon, Rio.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good, yeah.
Cool. All right, Rio, how we're going to pitch it, as I usually pitch it, is I'm just going to ask you a few questions and then we'll take it from there. So
Cool.
First and foremost, just tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name's Rio. I live and work in Poole in Dorset. I'm 38 now, but back in the day, I joined the police when I was 19. Still living with my parents at the time. Childless. was in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Yeah.
And what brings me to speak with you today is, as you say, on the theme of asking for it, because my experience around sexual assault, the reporting process, and everything kind of that runs simultaneously alongside that is rooted within being a police officer.
Okay.
I was a victim of sexual assault whilst as a serving police officer,
Right.
whilst I was on duty.
Wow.
So it would be really good to discuss it, to break down the stigma, I guess, and the stereotype of the victim blaming that exists out there about people that are asking for it because of something that they might be wearing or because it's late at night, because
Right.
they're on their own somewhere that they shouldn't be as a woman, as a female.
Yeah.
Since that experience, I've gone into lots of different fields of work, which has been incredible, and it's been healing. And I've worked with the most incredible survivors of rape, sexual assault, domestic abuse.
Right.
I've done lots of different bits and pieces within there. Like I've been a crisis worker. I've worked with for a rape crisis centre as an ISVA. I have managed a women's refuge, and it's changed my life. And I'm in a place now where I feel like it's comfortable to open up and be really honest
Right.
about my experience.
Yeah.
In the hope that other women do the same.
Yes, indeed.
Because it's taken a while to get here, but it's where we are now. It's a positive experience.
Excellent. And I have done some work with you at the refuges in the
Yeah,
past back
yeah,
in the day.
a few
so
years
that was
ago.
cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask you a few questions and just ask them as you would anyway.
Mhm.
Okay, the first one is, can you describe the incident or behaviours that made you feel you were being treated unfairly because of your gender?
Yeah. We go back to, when was it? I joined Hampshire Police in 2006, I believe. So it's a little while ago. And you'd think that a lot's changed since then.
Right.
But, truth be told, and we'll get to that bit, it really hasn't. And I joined it up at 19, which in hindsight, I was just far too young. And I joined up with A-levels. I was working in retail at the time. And I just had the ambition that I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And, being a police officer was all I wanted to do from school, because you have this sort of superhero concept that what you're going to be doing is you're going to be out there, meeting people where they are in crisis and supporting them.
Right.
It was very different.
Yeah.
It was all kind of targeted at the criminal side of things, which I get, I understand. No complaints. It was about targets. It was about ticks in boxes. It was how many arrests, how many charges have you done? And what was really difficult is being 19. I mean, the life experience I had was minimal.
Exactly,
I lived
yeah.
at home with my parents.
Right.
I'd been to an all-girls grammar school, and I was thrown in at the deep end. You're picturing like rabbit in the headlights.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're going to break up domestics, whether you've got a couple that are in their 50s, married with children, and and you're breaking them up. And they're, you've got grown men turning around, looking at you going, what do you know?
Right.
And they're absolutely right.
Right.
All of that was difficult enough to contend with. Shift work, you throw it all in,
Right.
But I was stationed in the New Forest, so a rural area,
Yeah.
and I was on an all-male shift, and actually it had a reputation as somewhere that a lot of officers went when they were nearing retirement.
Okay.
So older male officers, and it wasn't very diverse. It's the New Forest, and I think there was maybe a few token females here and there that had come through like a new recruitment drive, but I felt really isolated.
Yeah.
I assumed that, I would be well supported and mentored, coached through.
Right. Of course.
But even from the beginning, there was just these I say minor, they're probably quite major really, but quite minor things that you just kind of let go, where you were a non-driver at the time, so you would be dropped off at a sudden death and be responsible for the paperwork and the process all by yourself and sit with the dead body until the undertakers arrived, because it was a job maybe that the rest of the team didn't really want to do.
Right.
Or, you would be the statement bitch because they didn't want to write the statement, you would be the one that got taken to the missing person reports, the rapes, the sexual assaults, because they had absolutely no compassion and empathy for anything like that.
Really?
Yeah, and I think strengths-based approach, I get it. Like sometimes, a female touch is absolutely relevant, but it also was a bit like they were shirking the work that they didn't want to do.
Right.
Just lots of things like that. I had to arrive early for shift. We had what we call parade before the start of a shift, where we all got together in a room and we had like a briefing around who was being crewed with who, what we were all doing for the day, any handovers, any prisoners that were in custody. And I was the one making a massive, like the pot of tea was like this, like bigger than your head, and carrying it in and, pouring the tea for, can you imagine? Pouring the tea for all these men sat around in the room, because that was, you were the probie.
Right.
But the gender thing definitely, was a massive theme in there as well.
What do you mean by probie?
Probie, probationer.
Okay,
So you're the new one, the probie.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You knew you were going to get the bad jobs, the administrative ones, the ones nobody wanted.
Right.
You knew you were going to be dropped off at things and you'd have to wait for your lift to pick you up. Crazy. But you just got on with it because it's, a uniformed service. And it's, it took a lot to get there. You want to make your family proud.
Right.
And once you were there, all you wanted to do was fit in.
Yeah.
You just want to be part of the team.
Right.
If you press that red button on your radio, they're the ones that are coming running. So you want to fit in. You want to be liked. You want to be respected.
Right.
And for that reason, I think that, and lots of female officers I've spoke to since, you do join in with the banter.
Right, okay.
And the banter's dangerous. So that's where all this low level, the misogyny, all of that, that's where it starts. It's that verbal low level stuff.
Yeah.
So you accept it, you endure it, you join in with it.
Right.
And I think that's probably where the reform, with all these big stories in the media around the Met and everything, that's probably where all the reform needs to start.
Right.
So that's kind of like the setting for me.
Okay.
And then whilst I was on a training course, I had a random a text message on my mobile, my personal phone.
Yeah.
It was from a number I didn't have saved and I didn't know. Right. And a bit of a riddle involved in working out who it was when I asked.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it was an acting sergeant that was on another shift that had gone on to a HR system to obtain my mobile number to then start.
As well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So that lower level misconduct. But at that point, this acting sergeant, I'd met and had conversations with him a few times, and I actually thought that I had a friend. I was so anxious from the minute I drove to work, from the minute I got home. You just took a breath and you didn't exhale because of everything else that was going on, and you're learning on the job, and it's scary. Going to the types of incidents at 19 is really, really tough. Lots of trauma.
Right.
But I thought I'd found a friend in him, and I didn't. It turns out I didn't. Cut a long story short, he was messaging me for a number of weeks. The messages started to get inappropriate. He asked for photos of my tattoos. They were flirtatious. I knew that he had a partner, long-term partner, and children. He was like double my age. I think he was well into his 40s.
Right.
He was a popular man.
Right.
He was really well respected.
Right.
He was tall. He was big, like big built. He had been there a while. He drove an area car, which is like a bit of a badge of honour if you drove the faster cars and, you had your licence to do that. Always in and amongst the banter. One of the lads,
Yeah. And when that conversation was, those texts were back and forth, did you have a sense that something's not right here?
Yes, 100%.
Right.
And I knew it wasn't right. You get that feeling as a woman that you're like, something doesn't, your gut feeling just kicks in, like something just isn't ringing right here.
Yeah.
So much so, I did tell a colleague on my own shift, and I showed him an example of the messages, and he said, well, you know what, Rio, like you should really report this, or you should have a word, like you should say something. Do you want me to? And I was like, no way. Like, I don't want to be the prude, the troublemaker. I just want to fit in here. Yeah. I just want to turn up, do my job and go home again. Right. Like, I don't want to be, getting anyone into trouble. Certainly not a man of his sort of social standing, shall we say.
Yeah. Even though you had them feelings that it wasn't right.
Yeah, not at all. Wow. I think that there is a subconscious barrier for every female officer based on the behaviours, the micro behaviours that you experience, the casual sexism, the misogyny, the jokes, the banter.
Right.
And you just form the impression early on that there is absolutely no way I am sticking my head up and I'm grassing on anyone. And as I kind of tell you, everything how it unfolded, I get it. 100%, because there were so many times that I deeply regretted speaking up and saying anything about my experience. So the messages went on. I guess part of the story as well is I was actually in a really controlling relationship at the time. My boyfriend was emotionally really controlling, really insecure. Yeah. And again, in 2006, maybe, there wasn't a lot out there about coercive controlling relationships. Right, and you took it as, well, actually, when someone's jealous, it's actually quite flattering and it's part of it and they care. And so anything for an easy life. So a lot of the messages that I was receiving, I was deleting quite quickly because he would have blamed me and it would have been my fault. So there would have been repercussions. Oh, no, wow. Definitely not. No, incredible. I was just dealing with it on my own, really isolated. Yeah. One late shift, I turned up at the station for a parade and I noticed that this particular acting sergeant had volunteered to be on our shift rather than the night shift that he should have been on. Right. He was also the sergeant deciding on who was crewing with who, which car, what area they were covering. I was instantly like a bit nervous about this. And I think I'd already kind of jumped ahead and go, I know what's going to happen here. He's blatantly going to crew us together. Right. I'm just waiting for him to say the words. Of course he did. He crewed us together and he also put us in the Ringwood car, which meant that we were further away from all of the other officers in their patrol cars. And we would start at Lymington, but then we would go over to Ringwood and cover that area. And we wouldn't return to Lymington where everyone else would return for their paperwork and their food and stuff. So he really did isolate us away from the rest of the shift. And as I left that room, my colleague said to me, am I allowed to name people? Just give him first name. Matt, amazing guy. He said to me, are you comfortable with this? So the guy I told about the messages, are you all right with this? I was like, yeah, it's fine. what is the worst that could happen? Seriously. I'm in a stab vest. I've got CS gas here, a baton, a radio with a red button, full uniform.
Yeah.
It's 10-hour shift. What's the worst that can happen? And how wrong can somebody be? Because that evening, rather than him clocking off shift when he was due, we did a tour of all of the New Forest car parks, which are notorious. They're just known for people going in them to have relations. They're secluded, they're dark, there's no lighting. The New Forest gets really dark quite quickly out there.
Yeah.
Everything looks the same.
Yeah.
We were just in and out of all of these car parks, and it was just building. I noticed he had 2 phones throughout the night. I thought, that's interesting. The last forest car park that we went in, and I wouldn't be able to tell you the name of it or where it was, because it was just like, you know, my little heart was beating. And over the next sort of like 10 to 15 minutes, I was sexually assaulted in a marked police car in full uniform. And my stab vest, where the Velcro kind of comes across the front of you, you know, removed. Even like my epaulets I found down the side of the car door. Absolutely insane, completely froze. And a lot of obviously victims and survivors will tell you that they froze. And you don't really understand why, because I beat myself up for years. You had all of this, like, why didn't you use it? You could have gassed the guy.
Yeah.
You know, like you do almost like self-defense training at training school. I could have given him an elbow. Like I could have put up some kind of fight, and I did not. I just completely froze. I didn't know where I was. I was worrying about things that are like, well, if I get out of the car now and I walk, I actually don't know the way back. I live in a completely different place anyway. It's dark. There might be more risks that I'm exposed to outside of the car. I even thought to myself, well, you need to take your hat, because if you don't, again, I'd been told off so many times that I'd been seen getting out of a car, going into Tesco's without the female bowler police hat on. I thought, well, I'm going to get told off for that if I don't get out of the car and take my hat with me. And I think just in the moment, you're going, well, what the hell just happened? Like, what was all that about? So as I thought that we were like driving back to the police station to clock off, and no one really checked in, like, where are we, what we're doing, or anything like that. Which, I mean, even then, would I have said anything? Probably not. So we went, I remember telling him, and I opened the car door and all the windows had steamed up, and I thought, how terrible this looks. You know, and it looks consensual. Steamy windows, you know, New Forest car park, Christ, you know, you think about your reputation and everything.
Indeed.
And I swung my legs out of the car and I was just sort of like adjusting things. And I just said to him, like, look, like, I just want to go back to the station. I'm not going to say anything. Like, can we just go back? Like, I need to go back to the station. And he was like, yeah, sure. So we were headed back to the station, but before we did so, he drove us into an industrial estate car park. I thought, like, where are we going now? Like, what is going on? Nothing else happened, but it was just really bizarre. But again, it was just part of that processing for me, was just piecing all of this together and thinking, like, that's really odd. Like, why did we do that? Is it intimidation? Is it a pattern of behaviour? You know, so, and at that point, when we stopped the car in this industrial car park in Lymington, I got out of the car and I went really, really quick behind the car and over to the corner of this car park, and suddenly realised that there was just bushes and trees all around, like where you get to where the curbs meet.
Yeah.
And I just stopped and I thought, well, what the fuck are you doing? Like, where are you actually going? Like, where, like,
yeah,
what are you actually doing?
Yeah, right.
And he got out of the car and I stopped and I looked back over at him in the car, and I ended up walking back over to the car and getting back in the car. So I just didn't know, I didn't have a choice, didn't know where I was.
Totally confused.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably in a bit of shock.
Yeah.
Got back to the station, ran up the stairs to where, like, the office is, where all the computers were. There was one female officer in the room, and she was like, are you all right? I was like, yeah, fine. Yeah, and just logged in the computer, just kept quiet, got my head down. finished the last sort of 45 minutes of the shift, went home. And that was that incident.
Right.
I didn't tell anyone. And then...
You didn't tell anyone because of fear, because of whether you would be believed or not, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, fear of being believed.
Right.
I think a lot of it was, please, I just want to pretend that didn't happen.
Right.
Maybe it's just easier if I just crack on.
Yeah.
Let's push on. Let's just pretend it didn't happen. That, I think, emotionally, that was an easier, more comfortable place to be, because I've also got, really don't want to have this conversation with my boyfriend. I know how that's going to go.
Right. Yeah.
Did that really happen? Will people read into this? Will I get myself a reputation?
Yeah.
Will this actually, all the progress I'd made of like trying to make friends and be liked and be accepted, will it undo all of that? So lots of different things. Yeah. But also I think being 19 and being in a coercive relationship at the time, my understanding of what consent was, what's right or wrong, what a healthy relationship is, was completely shot to pieces anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So it probably took me longer to process just exactly what had happened.
Right. Wow. Wow.
And over the next couple of days, he did actually send me a text, and the text confirmed it. And it said, he'd sent a couple, I think, and I hadn't been replying. And he sent me one, and it was like, I don't understand why you're ignoring me. It was me that did the deed, or something like that, words to that effect. And I'm pretty happy about it.
Wow.
Deleted the message. Of course I did. Because at that point, it was, I wasn't reporting it. I wouldn't need that message. It was, it is what it is.
Let me just stop you there, and let me ask you another question then. How did the actions or comments of your colleagues or supervisors, once you did start to talk about it, affect your sense of safety or belonging within the police force itself?
Just removed it. And it was only there, like this much.
Right.
It's just gone. Completely gone. Because I was never forthcoming. An officer I was friendly with, one evening, he randomly asked me, and innocently asked me, has anyone like asked you out? Or, propositioned you since you've got here,
Yeah.
And it was just like word vomit. I just was like, well, actually, this happened. And rightfully so, he said, because you've disclosed a crime to me, Rio, that I'm duty bound. I have to follow this up. I have to report it. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about this.
Right.
And I was like,
again,
please
still
just
in protective mode and all
that.
that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, please don't say anything. Don't do anything. And he's like, I could lose my job if I don't report it.
Right.
We'll do it in your way and I'll talk you through it, but I have to. You've disclosed a crime. That's, you take an oath as a police officer. So it was kind of out of my hands, and thankfully so. Would I have ever said anything if he hadn't have just asked me, has anyone asked you out?
Right.
Yeah, probably not. No.
Yeah. And as a result, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, definitely. And as a result, I wouldn't have gone on to do any of the jobs I'd ever done. I'd give any of the advice I've, I think that these experience only, like, they feed you. Something happened, and it just ignited this fight. And it took a while to find myself to get to that point where I'm almost grateful for such a horrific experience, because I've been able to, there's been some good that's come out of it.
Right. Well done. Well said.
But going back to your question, after I reported it, the investigation was horrendous. The investigation was more traumatic than the incident, because I can tell you now, I forgive that man for what he did. I understand there's bad people in every single industry in the whole world. There are bad men that do bad things. There are people that they are perpetrators. There are sexual predators. There are people that are wired that way, that have a lust for control. I get it. I get it. But what let me down, what traumatized me, was the very people, my employers, that should have had a duty of care to me to look after me. They destroyed everything about me.
Right.
Everything. They took everything for me. And I ended up under the care of the mental health team, signed off work, long-term sickness, which is obviously frowned upon because you're a police officer, you're a sick note.
Right.
And it was just crippling.
Yeah.
It was dealt with internally, so it was professional standards that investigated at the rank of inspector. I mean, I was so intimidated. The people interviewing me, I'm calling them sir. I was taken on a drive around the New Forest in all of the car parks in daylight to take them on the exact journey I was taken on, to identify the scene of the crime with 2 male officers in the car, in the front of the car. I went to my vulnerable witness interview where it was video and audio recorded. I was asked to wear my full uniform so I could physically show on camera how it was removed, how my stab vest was removed.
Wow.
Luckily, through every meeting, every interview, I had the most incredible man. Like, that's the thing that makes me emotional. And he's retired now, but I always used to call him work dad. He was my safe space. He was trained in interviewing victims of rape and sexual assault, like advanced trained. So his knowledge around trauma was just extensive. But his compassion, just when I lost all faith in every single man I could ever surround myself with around, because a police officer, a policeman in uniform is as you grow up as a young woman, you think that's the one person you can run to. When you're in trouble, when you need help, you can run.
Yes.
And I had no one at that point. He was a role model. He was a pillar of strength. He was the only thing that got me through. He'd been in the army. He's just smashing through the stereotypes that was going on for me at the time.
Right, yeah.
Thank God for him.
Yeah.
Thank God for him, because he was not only this pillar of strength, but he was witness to everything that I was subjected to throughout that reporting process.
Phenomenal.
Everything that was, putting me off.
Yeah.
Because it was quite clear from the tone, the body language, from the questioning, from all of the communication, I was the bad guy. Because I had dared to speak out, to speak up. There was so much gaslighting. I doubted my own mind. My phone was seized from me. I was told, of course, we can recover deleted messages, because we know that the police can do great things like that.
Yeah.
They never recovered anything deleted. Just made me doubt that was ever an offer. Because I thought, there you go, there's the proof.
Right, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
I've deleted it. I've accounted for that. But here's my phone.
Yeah.
Big deal at 19 to hand your phone over
Indeed.
without a replacement. Have it. It was returned to me in the internal post, broken. Certain things had been deleted from it, so they tampered with evidence. I'd get phone calls during a working shift in the office on a landline to follow up questions. It's like just what you want in the middle of a late shift.
Exactly. Do you know the interesting part, what you just said there? You mentioned about having the police feeling safe around them within the police force. But what about outside the police force? Do you know what I mean? Like that Sarah Everard comes to mind and everything. How you just think that if you see a policeman, that policeman's going to be all right
protect
you and everything. And
no, they let me down.
Yeah.
They let me down every single day. And I struggled on. I mean, I'd only done maybe 2 years service. I struggled on for 6 years service when I resigned. So for 4 years, I just carried on. It was clear I had a mark against my name the minute I dared to speak out. It was clear that everyone took his side. He was popular. He'd been there longer than I had.
Yeah.
I was being ignored. I was, people were just turning their heads away from me in the corridors. All the repercussions it felt like came my way. I didn't, there was no support. I was obviously hitting all these sickness trigger points because I was taking time off. I started suffering with migraines, which I still have to this day. I was getting flashbacks. I just wasn't sleeping. I wasn't looking after myself. Wasn't eating properly. All those things that survivors will tell you, the basic needs just aren't being met.
Right.
Meanwhile, just keeping quiet and just trying to just show up and just prove yourself that you deserve to be there.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I did deserve to be there. I was the best chance they had in that station because I had the empathy, I had the compassion. I was in it for the right reasons. I
Right.
didn't want to put the ticks in the boxes.
Yes.
I wasn't saying things that were sexist, that were homophobic, that were racist. I wasn't the one. I was sat there listening to it, enduring it, wondering, hang on a minute. Why is this allowed? Why are you all behaving in this way?
Right.
I was the best chance. I was the best possible officer that could have turned up at any job. And I don't say that with arrogance. I say that because of the warmth and the compassion and probably my lived experience that meant I was the safest option, actually.
Right. Wow.
Because of the behaviour, because of the misogyny. It just, through the reporting process, I mean, it was terrible, but ultimately he was given some sort of warning. I mean, surely I should know. What was the warning for, Irwin?
Exactly. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you to this day.
Wow.
Couldn't tell you. He was given some sort of warning. It was explained to me in person by the professional standards inspector that he was interviewed with a representative, like a Fed rep with him, sort of, not a solicitor, but, he's interviewed. He admitted a few things. He feels really silly. Okay, so he's admitted a crime. Never went to court. It never went anywhere criminal. It was dealt with almost like me and you had a falling out, because we're employees and it needed to be mediated. And so it was resolved almost like informally as an internal HR issue. Never had the option of it going criminal. And then in the last meeting I had where they talked through the outcome, they said to me, that the inspector said to me, and the words echo to this day, some fatherly advice for you. You are a young female in a male-dominated profession. You need to expect a certain amount of male attention. Luckily, Phil was sat there, witnessed this. I just fled the room in tears.
But he did.
What kind of father gives his daughter that kind of advice?
Exactly.
That you should expect it. That you need to almost be hardened to it.
Right. Incredible.
So not only did I lose the faith in the people that were there to support me, to protect me, I lost my faith in the job.
Right.
And it was just a ticking time bomb where I thought, I don't want to do this job anymore because I felt like it was like selling my soul to the devil. Every time I turned up for work, I thought, this just isn't for me. It's not what I thought. It's not what I thought I would be doing. These people, they're not the people that I want to surround myself with.
Right.
And all that happened was he had this warning for a year.
And that was it.
Yeah, that was it. He got moved, but he was still in like a shared space where I knew at some point I would bump into him, so he was close enough.
Right.
I ended up telling the boyfriend at the time what had happened, sugarcoated it, it wasn't as honest as I could even sit here and discuss with you. It was, he got to know the bits that I wanted him to know in the way that I want, to protect myself.
Right.
Well, he ended up, taking everything up a few gears. I had my underwear checked before I left for work by him every day. Like that was an issue. He would time my journeys from the police station to home, and be like, well, why did it take you so long? I believe a tracker was put on my car at some point. He tried to drive me off the road one night. Lots of different experience.
This is your boyfriend?
Was my boyfriend at the time, yeah.
Wow.
And again, as a police officer, asking for it, we come back to that and we're thinking, was I asking for it in a full police uniform as a serving officer in a police car? Absolutely not. But this is when crimes happen.
Yeah.
This is when sexual assault happens. And as a serving police officer, are female serving officers in abusive and controlling relationships? Absolutely. But I could have gone into work and gone, just to let you know, this happened last night.
Right, exactly.
And I never did.
You never did.
Never, ever reported any of it. Right. Never confided in anyone about the nature of my relationship because the trust was gone. I had no one to confide in. Yet I was supposedly, to someone on the outside, I was part of this wonderful family that would look after you, protect you. back you,
Right.
and that's how it should be. That's how it has to be, because some of the things that you see and you endure and it's bad.
It is bad.
But I never had any of it.
Incredible. Right, my next question. This is phenomenal. This you're gonna have to come in again. Man. I tell you, it's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. So, have these experiences, Rio, had an impact on your work? And you mentioned your mental health or personal life, and if so, could you explain how?
Yes, I'm a feminist. Yeah.
Good for you.
My poor husband. No. I resigned from the police. That was the best decision I ever made.
Right.
Best decision. I left a great salary, a pension, a reputation, a father's pride.
Yeah.
My dad was so proud of the job I did.
Right.
I left it. I took a significant pay decrease overnight, and I went to work for my local rape crisis centre as a support worker, working with victims and survivors, adults that had been abused or assaulted at any time in their life. And that, for me, was when my healing started.
Right.
Best job in the world. And I got to meet some of the most wonderful women. And in and amongst offering the best service, you know, the bit of active listening, you'll know all about this, you know, and lots of compassion. Hearing the things they were saying was helping me.
Right.
Hearing
Right.
that they froze, hearing that they couldn't remember certain things, hearing, I don't understand why I did this. I say, me too.
Right.
It
Yeah.
felt like that family, that club, that, like, you know, what I was looking for
Yeah,
in the
that
police.
empathy.
I'd found
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and it was a sisterhood.
Right.
It was, you know, victims and survivors of sexual assault are some of the most inspirational, incredible people you'll ever spend time with. And they helped me just as much as I helped them. I'm sure of it.
Right. Yeah.
And their stories are just, you know, and it just ignited something. And it took me a while. It took me, you know, a few years. And meanwhile, I had my eldest child at the time, and I was settling down into a stable relationship, a healthy one. You know, just learning about myself again.
Yeah.
But every job I kind of went into from then was always about supporting victims, advocating for people, trying to undo some wrongs, you know, and speak up for people where there might be injustice.
Yeah.
And it's been incredible. It's
for
been
you.
great. A packed CV full of lots of different bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably a number of years after was the first time I started speaking publicly, even to friends and family, about my experiences.
Right.
And it was tough to start with.
Of course.
But then once you get going, you're like, wow, because you get really good comments and feedback, and you think, oh my gosh, like one person might report something because of this. And the police thing, when I started doing things more public around my experiences as a police officer and misogyny and sexism and things, you know, the inbox messages where people want to remain confidential, but where they're still serving now.
Right.
I mean, it was just incredible. You'd think fast forward in 2025 that this wasn't happening. I always worry about speaking about things. I think, well, it's historic now, like it's irrelevant. Oh, it's still relevant.
Of course it is.
It's still rife.
Yes.
Because, like you mentioned earlier, we've had Sarah Everard,
Right.
and there are many, many more failings. Like, where's the reform? Where's the changes? What are we doing now to break this big bad boys club apart?
Right.
You know, what are we doing to tackle the verbal stuff, the banter,
Exactly.
the banter, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Great point.
So, yeah.
How did your experiences influence your trust in the leadership or the complaint procedure within that organisation?
I was absolutely no point in reporting anything ever again.
Right. So now, you could, if you was to speak to yourself now, and yourself said, "I'm not reporting it, Rio, because it's pointless." Would you understand that, or would you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I still would.
Even in 2025.
Yeah, I still would. But I think with the knowledge that I have now, that there are lots of incredible charities and voluntary sector organisations that exist.
Yeah.
And they're doing some wonderful stuff. That would be the route that I would encourage and empower anyone to take.
Right.
Because whilst investigations are being dealt with internally by professional standard departments, by anti-corruption units, or whatever whatever they're called in each police force, I feel like there is that it's vulnerable to a layer of corruption there when it comes to the investigation. And I saw an article this week in Metro that was talking about Freemasonry and police forces.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, that was my experience, because the guy that assaulted me played golf with the chief inspector, and there was the funny handshake club, and it was all talked about and giggled about.
Right.
But you know what? They all protected their own. And that's exactly why it was almost like they tried to put me off reporting, doubt my mind, and protect him.
Yeah.
And he was well looked after.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, because I wasn't a Freemason and he was.
Right.
And he was part of this club.
Right.
Where he was always going to be looked after.
Always protected.
And I think at the time, again, it felt like I had no tangible evidence of it. So it felt like, oh, she's just crazy. Like, what's she talking about?
Right.
I saw this article this week and I thought, thank you. Because it's absolutely, and Freemasonry is a type of corruption, because everyone closes in and it's not, how can there be a fair and thorough process if you've got people that are all kind of looking after their own? Absolutely not.
Great point. Did you leave the police, Rio, because of these experiences? And if so, what influenced your decision? What was the ultimate decision?
I left the police because of my mental health, where it was.
Because of the mental
I was diagnosed with adjustment disorder, PTSD, anxiety, depression. I just didn't want to exist anymore.
Right.
I was that low.
Yeah.
I left because I was worried about, I'd just fallen pregnant with my first child.
Right.
And I knew the experiences, the shift work, the commute.
Yeah.
I just couldn't be a healthy, happy mum.
Right.
And I also left because whilst I was on a period of long-term sickness, I received a phone call from a serving young female officer that told me, I've been told you're the best person to call. I appreciate you're off sick, and I'm really sorry, but my colleague told me to give you a bell because a certain officer has been messaging me. And my colleague said, it's the same officer that was messaging you at some point, and you might know what to do about this. And it was the same guy. So the cycle had started again.
Right.
Luckily, it didn't get to the point where there was anything physical happening, anything sexual, like a sexual assault happening for her.
Yeah.
She reported it. She went to an inspector. She reported it. Nothing was done.
Wow.
Oh, it was after that year.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the warning had expired on his record.
Exactly.
But you know what? It just solidified things for me that I was just going back into, I was just throwing myself into quite a dangerous situation. Mm-hmm. Because if that can happen and that person faces no consequence and they can go on to do it again,
right,
then what chance do we all have as young female officers?
Exactly. Great point.
And I draw a parallel with Sarah Everard, because it's the case that obviously everyone knows about.
Right.
Wayne Couzens was investigated for indecent exposure. Before he kidnapped he kidnapped Sarah, and it just on a completely, obviously that situation completely higher level, which I understand, but there was just a similarity there for me. I found it really triggering because it was the same for me, where he'd got away with what he did to me. Mm-hmm. I'd done everything right. I'd reported it. I'd given statements. I'd done video interviews. I attended all the meetings I had to. I'd complied with the whole investigation. And yet, organisation failed me and failed the next person. And all that was going to happen is, if it wasn't her, it would be the next young female officer. Yeah. For similar age, similar build, it was just going to keep happening. So unless the police get to grips with that, with the lower level stuff, the verbal stuff, the misogyny, the homophobic comments, everything that's labelled as banter. And obviously you would have seen in the media lots about the WhatsApp groups and things that are being shared and discussed. Yeah. Unless you cut it off there and do almost a bit of preventative work, these things are just going to keep happening. And unless the investigation is dealt with externally, I think that is key as well.
Wow. I've just got one more question before we bring this thing down for a landing. Time's just flown by. You've been phenomenal.
Thank you.
What advice or messages would you share with other people facing similar challenges, Rio, within the police or similar institutions or organisations? What advice would you give them?
Despite all of that, you should report it. You should. Right. But like I said earlier, there are some really, really good, honest, trustworthy, independent organisations. So in Dorset, we have the Shores, and we have STARS Dorset, that used to be Dorset Rape Crisis Support Centre. They are independent from the police. You can confide in them, talk to them, talk it all through with them, explore your options with them before you think about whether you would like to go down the route of involving the police and speaking to them. The Shores, which is based in Bournemouth, it covers the whole of Dorset. They also will have the option where if you want an off-the-record conversation with a police officer in plain clothes to discuss it, then you can do that. Right. So it just equips victims and survivors. It's really empowering. It gives you the full control. Right. Because we know when you are being assaulted or raped or abused, you have no control. You lose all control. Right. The most important thing is that you feel in control of your report. Right. And you're aware of what's happening, when it's happening. It's at your pace and it's your choice. So I would encourage anyone to go via that route. Right. Because you've got that professional friend in your corner from day dot that will, go through the process with you. Yeah. And they'll be able to advocate. And if something doesn't feel right and it's not being dealt with in the right way, you've got someone that will absolutely stand there and challenge that and speak up for you. Yeah. You lose your voice when you're assaulted. You become a shadow of your former self. All your confidence is on the floor. You just exist. So having that person to talk for you, to speak up for you.
And that's not just within the police, that's within any organisation.
That's anything, or any and they would still support you if you've been assaulted or you're being abused by a serving or, police officer, then they would still work with you. The other option you've got is, and I've had a few meetings, some really good conversations with the anti-corruption unit at Dorset Police. They are making some changes. I've seen a lot more in the Echo online about the investigations, just being a bit more open and honest about what's really going on. Right. And it looks like they're trying to weed out the bad apples bit by bit. But I would be keen to know and read about police forces, what they're doing at the recruitment stage. Right. Because I think that's now key for who they recruit. And in particular, looking at people's psychology, because if they just want to throw people around and it's about control and, then they're not right for the job. Right. Because those tendencies are just going to,
without a doubt,
are just going to be across it all.
Spot on.
So, yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, fascinating. I'm so happy and grateful that you've come in today.
I'm really grateful too.
To speak, and I hope everyone who you're looking at and are going to empathise with what you've just said, Rio. Really, really deep, really, really high level. Just one more thing from me. Please like, please share, please subscribe. And if you've got any comments whatsoever about this particular episode that you want to ask Rio, put it in the chat facility and I'll get Rio to answer them. You'll answer them.
Yeah, happy to, yeah.
And you've got to come in again.
I would love to. This has been easy. This is easy. Love it. Thank you very much for having me.